The alarm went off at 4:45 a.m., and I groaned, burying my face deeper into the pillow. Next to me, my husband Michael was already sitting up, reaching for the running clothes he'd laid out the night before. "Go back to sleep," he whispered, kissing my forehead. "I'll be back by 7." I mumbled something incoherent and drifted back to sleep, vaguely aware of him moving around the room, the bathroom light clicking on, the sound of the front door closing softly behind him. This had been our routine for 3 months now, ever since Michael had decided, at 45 years old and after a lifetime of claiming he wasn't a runner, to suddenly take up jogging. "The doctor said I need to get my cholesterol down," he'd explained when he came home with expensive running shoes and moisture-wicking shirts. "And Chris from work said he'd help me get started." Chris. I'd met him once at Michael's office holiday party. Mid-30s, athletic build, the kind of smile that probably got him whatever he wanted. He worked in marketing at Michael's software company, and apparently he ran marathons for fun. "That's great, honey," I'd said, supportive, even though I was skeptical. Michael had never been athletic. In our 20 years of marriage, I'd watched him try and quit yoga, cycling, swimming, and even Tai Chi. He lasted maybe 3 weeks with each new fitness endeavor before finding excuses to stop. But the running stuck. 3 months later, he was still waking up before dawn to meet Chris, still coming home energized and happy, still talking about pace times and proper form and something called negative splits. "You're really committed to this," I said one morning as I watched him stretch in the kitchen before leaving. "I feel great, Sarah. Best I've felt in years. Chris is a great coach. He's got me up to 5 miles now." 5 miles? That's impressive. "We're thinking about doing a 10K together in the spring. There's one in Riverside that Chris says is perfect for beginners." I smiled and kissed him goodbye, genuinely happy that my husband had found something he enjoyed. Michael worked in IT, spent most of his day sitting at a desk. The running was good for him. He'd lost 15 pounds, his color was better, he seemed more energetic. If anything, our marriage had improved. Michael was happier, more attentive, more present. We'd even started having date nights again, something that had fallen away over the years of raising our 2 kids and managing careers. "Mom, why is Dad awake so early?" Our 15-year-old daughter Emma shuffled into the kitchen in her pajamas. "Running with his friend Chris. He's really into it now." "That's so random. Dad never exercises." "People change. It's good for him." What I didn't tell Emma, what I was trying not to think about myself, was that sometimes, late at night when I couldn't sleep, I'd wonder about these early morning runs. Wonder what Michael and Chris talked about for 2 hours every day. Wonder why Michael always showered at the gym afterward, instead of coming home sweaty like he used to when he tried cycling. Wonder why he'd started buying new cologne and styling his hair differently. But I pushed those thoughts away. I trusted Michael. We'd been married for 20 years. He'd never given me reason to doubt him. Until the day I downloaded Strava. It was Emma who introduced me to the app. She joined her school's track team and was using it to log her training runs. "It's cool, Mom. You can see your route, your pace, everything. And you can follow other people and see what they're running." That sounds complicated. It's not. "Here, let me set it up on your phone. You should use it for your walks." I'd started walking in the evenings, partly inspired by Michael's newfound fitness journey, partly because I needed something to do with all the nervous energy I'd been carrying lately. Emma set up the app, showed me how to start tracking a workout, and then said, "Oh, you should follow Dad. He's on here. Chris got him to sign up." "How do you know that?" "I found his profile when I was looking for my friend's account. Here, I'll pull it up." She typed in Michael's name, and there it was, Michael Peterson, complete with a profile photo I'd never seen before. Him in running gear, looking fit and happy, taken at what appeared to be the finish line of a race I didn't know he'd run. "When did he do a race?" I asked. "I don't know. Maybe it's old." Emma clicked follow on his profile. There. Now you can see all his runs. After Emma left for school, I opened the app and looked at Michael's profile more carefully. He had 127 followers, which seemed like a lot for someone who'd only been running for 3 months. His most recent run was from this morning, 6.2 miles in 58 minutes. I clicked on the route map. The run started from our house, which made sense, but instead of going to the park like Michael usually said he ran, the route went east towards the highway. It stopped at what appeared to be a motel. The Riverside Inn. I recognized the name. It was one of those budget places off the interstate, the kind you stay at when you're traveling through, not the kind you visit at 5 in the morning. I told myself there was probably a reasonable explanation. Maybe they met there because it was a good starting point. Maybe there was a trail nearby. I clicked on Michael's previous runs. Same pattern. Every single morning, the route ended at the Riverside Inn. And according to the timestamps, they weren't just stopping there briefly. The runs ended at 5:30 a.m., but Michael didn't come home until after 7. 2 hours. They were staying at that motel for 2 hours after their run. My heart started pounding. I opened Michael's profile again and clicked through his followers until I found Chris Martinez. His profile picture showed a man in his mid-30s with dark hair and an athletic build. Definitely the same Chris I'd met at the holiday party. I clicked on his recent runs. Same routes, same timestamps, same 2-hour gaps at the Riverside Inn. I sat at our kitchen table staring at my phone, trying to make this make sense. Maybe they grabbed breakfast after running. Maybe the motel had a good diner attached to it. But 2 hours? Every single morning? I checked the Riverside Inn's website. No diner, no restaurant at all. Just a basic motel with cheap rooms and weekly rates. The rational part of my brain was trying to find innocent explanations. The irrational part, the part that had been quietly worried for months, was screaming that something was very, very wrong. That evening, when Michael came home from work, I watched him carefully. He seemed normal, kissing me hello, asking about my day, helping our son Jake with his math homework. "How was your run this morning?" I asked casually as we made dinner together. "Good. Chris and I did a new route. Pushed the pace a little. I'm really feeling stronger." "Where did you run?" "The usual loop." "Why?" "Just curious. You're gone for a while, so I figured you must be covering a lot of distance." "Yeah, about 6 miles. And then we cool down, stretch, talk about our training plan. Chris is really helping me improve." He was lying. The run was 6 miles, yes, but it ended at the motel. Not at a park, not at our house. At a motel, where they apparently spent 2 hours doing what? "That's great," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "I'm proud of you for sticking with it." "Thanks, babe. It's been really good for me." After dinner, after we'd gotten both kids settled with homework and showers and all the evening routines, after Michael had fallen asleep watching TV, I grabbed his phone from the nightstand. I knew his passcode. It was Jake's birthday, same as it had always been. Michael wasn't secretive about his phone. He left it lying around constantly, never acted protective of it. Until recently, I realized. Recently, he'd started keeping it in his pocket more, turning it face down on the table, angling away from me when he was texting. Small things. Things I'd noticed but dismissed. I unlocked his phone and opened his messages. The text thread with Chris was at the top. "Tomorrow morning, same time?" "Definitely. Can't wait." "Me neither. Been thinking about you all day." "Same. Tonight was torture having to act normal." "I know, but only a few more hours until I can see you again." My hands were shaking as I scrolled up through their conversation. Months of messages. Nothing explicitly sexual, but intimate. Too intimate. "You looked amazing this morning. Couldn't stop staring at you." "Stop it. You're going to make me blush. People at work will notice." "Let them notice. I want everyone to know you're mine." "You know we can't do that yet. Not until—" "I know. I'm just saying I want to. Soon." I felt sick.
This was an affair. Michael was having an affair with Chris, his running partner. The running had never been about fitness. It had been an excuse, a cover story for meeting his, what, boyfriend? Lover? How long had this been going on? Longer than 3 months based on those messages. They talked about acting normal and not until, which suggested they'd been planning something. Planning to leave their current lives? I splashed cold water on my face and tried to think rationally. I needed proof. I needed to know for certain what was happening at that motel every morning. I needed to see it with my own eyes.
The next morning, I set my alarm for 4:30 a.m. When Michael's alarm went off at 4:45, I pretended to be asleep, listening to him get ready and leave. As soon as I heard his car pull out of the driveway, I got up, threw on clothes, and grabbed my keys. The Riverside Inn was 20 minutes away. If I left now, I could be there before their run ended. The motel was exactly what I expected. 2 stories, cheap siding, neon sign advertising weekly rates. It was the kind of place where people didn't ask questions, where you could come and go without being noticed. Michael's car was in the parking lot, along with what I assumed was Chris's, a newer model Honda with a Marathon sticker on the bumper. I parked on the street where I could see both vehicles but wouldn't be immediately visible, and I waited. At 6:30, I saw movement. A door on the second floor opened and Chris stepped out, looking around cautiously before heading down the stairs. He was wearing running clothes, his hair slightly messy, a satisfied smile on his face. 5 minutes later, Michael emerged from the same room. My husband, coming out of a motel room at 6:30 in the morning, looking around nervously, adjusting his clothes. They'd just spent 2 hours in that room together, after supposedly running. I took photos with my phone, Michael leaving the room, getting into his car, driving away. Documentation. Evidence. Then I sat in my car and cried. I didn't confront Michael that morning. I couldn't. I needed time to process what I'd seen, to figure out what I wanted to say. Instead, I went through the motions, made breakfast, got the kids off to school, went to work at the dental office where I'd been a hygienist for 15 years, smiled at patients, cleaned teeth, pretended everything was normal. My coworker Denise noticed something was wrong during our lunch break. "You okay? You've been really quiet today." "I'm fine, just tired." "You look like you've been crying." I almost told her, almost broke down and explained that I just discovered my husband of 20 years was having an affair with a man. But I couldn't make the words come out. "Just some family stuff, nothing serious." Denise didn't push, but she gave me a concerned look that said she knew I was lying. When I got home that afternoon, Michael was already there, working from home like he did most days. He smiled when I came in. "Hey, how was work?" "Fine." I set down my purse and keys, trying to keep my voice steady. "How was your day?" "Good, busy. Got a lot done on the Peterson project." "And your run this morning?" "Great. Chris and I did 7 miles. New personal best." Another lie. They'd done 6 miles according to Strava, and those miles ended at a motel where they'd spent 2 hours doing God knows what. "That's wonderful," I said mechanically. "I'm proud of you." "Are you okay? You seem off." "I'm fine, just a headache." I escaped to our bedroom and closed the door, sitting on the bed and staring at the photos on my phone. Michael leaving that motel room, the proof I needed. But now that I had it, I didn't know what to do with it. I called my sister Rachel that night after Michael had gone to bed. She lived 3 hours away in San Francisco, but we talked regularly. "I need to tell you something," I said when she answered. "Okay, you're scaring me. What's wrong?" "Michael is having an affair." Silence. Then, "What? Are you sure?" "I'm sure. I followed him this morning. He's been lying about his running. He and his running partner, Chris, have been meeting at a motel every morning for months." "Oh my God, Sarah, I'm so sorry." "Have you confronted him?" "Not yet.
I don't know what to say. I don't know if I'm ready for what comes after. Do you want me to come down? I can drive down this weekend. No, I need to handle this myself. I just needed to tell someone. I feel like I'm going crazy. You're not crazy. Michael is the one who's... Wait, Chris? Is that a guy? Yes.
I drove around for 2 hours before going home, needing time to compose myself before facing whatever came next. When I finally pulled into our driveway, Michael's car was gone. Inside, the house felt emptier than it should have. I walked through our bedroom and saw that his closet was half empty. Clothes gone, his favorite shoes missing, the photo of us from our wedding day still sitting on his nightstand like an accusation. He'd actually left. Part of me hadn't believed he would. I sat on our bed and called Rachel. I confronted him, I said when she answered. I went to the motel and caught them there. Oh my God, what happened? He admitted everything. Said he's in love with Chris, said he's been lying about who he is. I told him to get out. Is he gone? Yes, took his clothes and left. I don't even know where he went. Probably to Chris's place. The thought made me nauseous. Probably. What are you going to tell the kids? I don't know. They'll be home from their sleepovers in a few hours. I need to figure something out before then. Do you want me to come down? I can be there by dinner. Yes. Actually, yes. I could use the support. I'll leave in an hour. Sarah, I'm so sorry this is happening. Me too. After we hung up, I went through the house looking for signs of Michael's affair that I'd missed. Were there clues I'd overlooked? Evidence I should have seen? In his home office, I found a drawer that was usually locked. It was open now. He must have grabbed something from it before leaving. Inside were receipts for the motel room going back months. Confirmation that this had been going on even longer than I thought. There were also printouts of Chris's race times, notes about training schedules, and a card in an envelope addressed to Michael. I opened it, knowing I was invading his privacy, but not caring anymore. Privacy was for people who hadn't destroyed their marriage. The card was from Chris, dated 3 months ago. The front showed 2 runners crossing a finish line together. Inside, Chris had written, Michael. Happy 3-month anniversary. These have been the best 3 months of my life. I know we have to hide, but I promise you, one day we won't have to. One day we can be together openly. I love you, Chris. 3 months. They'd been celebrating their relationship like it was something to be proud of, while I'd been home making dinner and helping with homework and believing my husband's lies. I threw the card in the trash and sat down at Michael's desk. His laptop was there, still open. I knew the password. Same as his phone, Jake's birthday. I opened his email and found what I was looking for. Emails between Michael and Chris, dozens of them, going back 5 months. The early emails were professional, work questions, meeting schedules. But about 4 months ago, they changed. Michael, I keep thinking about what you said at lunch yesterday, about feeling stuck, about wondering if there's more to life than what you have. I feel the same way. If you ever want to talk about it outside of work, let me know. I'm a good listener. Chris, I appreciate that. It's hard to talk about this stuff with people who know me as Michael, the husband and father. Sometimes I feel like I'm playing a role instead of being myself. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime. Outside of work? Michael. I scrolled through months of emails, watching their relationship develop. Coffee turned into lunch, turned into admissions of attraction, turned into plans to meet early in the mornings, to run before work. I bought running shoes, Michael had written. Sarah was surprised, but she seemed happy I'm finally exercising. This gives us a perfect excuse to see each other. You're brilliant, Chris had replied. Pick you up at 5 a.m. tomorrow?
They'd planned this. They'd strategized how to hide their affair using running as a cover story. And I'd fallen for it completely. I was still reading emails when I heard the front door open. "Mom?" Emma's voice called out. "We're home." I quickly closed the laptop and went downstairs. Emma and Jake were in the kitchen, both looking tired from their respective sleepovers. "Hey guys, did you have fun?" "Yeah," Jake said, already rooting through the fridge for snacks. "Where's Dad?" This was it, the moment I'd been dreading. "Come sit down. I need to talk to you both about something."
They exchanged glances, sensing something was wrong. Emma set down her overnight bag and sat at the kitchen table. Jake followed reluctantly. "Is someone sick?" Emma asked, her voice small. "No, nothing like that. But your dad and I are having some problems. He's going to be staying somewhere else for a while." "You're getting divorced?" Jake's voice cracked. At 13, he still seemed so young. "I don't know yet. We need to figure some things out first." "What kind of problems?" Emma was watching me closely. At 15, she was old enough to sense I wasn't telling them everything. "Adult problems. It's complicated." "That's what adults always say when they don't want to explain things," Emma said, her voice sharp. "We're not little kids. What happened?" I took a breath. They deserved some version of the truth. "Your dad has been seeing someone else. Someone from his work. He fell in love with this person, and now we need to figure out what that means for our family." Emma's face crumpled. "Dad's having an affair?" "Yes." "With who?" "Someone named Chris from his office." "Chris Martinez?" Jake looked confused. "But he's a bi." "I know." They both stared at me as the implications sunk in. "Dad's gay?" Emma whispered. "I don't know what he is. Bisexual, maybe. He's figuring that out." "Does Chris know Dad's married?" Jake asked. "Yes." "That's so messed up." Emma stood up abruptly. "I'm going to call Dad." "Emma, no. If he's going to destroy our family, he can at least explain why." She grabbed her phone and ran upstairs. I heard her door slam. Jake was still sitting at the table, looking shell-shocked. "Is this real?" "I'm afraid so, sweetie." "But Dad said he loved you. He says it all the time." "I know. People's feelings can change, or sometimes people realize they're not being honest about their feelings." "That's a really messed up excuse for cheating." "Yes, it is." Jake stood up and hugged me, which surprised me. At 13, he'd been going through a phase where hugs from parents were deeply uncool. "I'm sorry, Mom. This sucks." "Yeah, honey, it really does." Rachel arrived at 6 p.m. with Chinese takeout and wine. The kids had retreated to their rooms, both processing the news in their own ways. I'd heard Emma crying on the phone earlier, presumably talking to Michael, but she hadn't come out of her room since. "How are you holding up?" Rachel asked as she set food on the kitchen table. "I've been better." "Have you heard from Michael?" "He's texted a few times asking if we can talk. I haven't responded." "Good. Make him sweat." "I'm not trying to make him sweat. I just don't know what to say to him." Rachel poured us both generous glasses of wine. "How did the kids take it?" "About as well as you'd expect. Emma's angry. Jake's confused and hurt. They both feel betrayed." They should feel betrayed. He betrayed all of you. I keep trying to understand it. How did I not see this? How did I miss all the signs? Sarah, you can't blame yourself. Michael was actively hiding this from you. He and Chris planned it out deliberately. But there were signs. The new clothes, the cologne, the way he talked about Chris all the time. I should have known. Or maybe you trusted your husband and had no reason to suspect he was lying to you. That's not a character flaw, Sarah. That's called being a decent person who expects decency from others. We ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Rachel asked, "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. File for divorce, I guess. Figure out custody and finances and all the awful logistics." "Do you think there's any chance you could work through this?" I looked at my sister. "Do you think I should?" "I don't know. I'm just asking if you've considered it." For about 5 seconds. Then I remembered that he's in love with someone else. You can't come back from that. And honestly, I don't want to. Even if he wanted to stay, I couldn't trust him again. That's fair. Plus, he's figuring out his sexuality. That's not something I can compete with or fix. If he's genuinely attracted to men, if Chris is who he wants to be with, then our marriage was over the moment he realized that. Rachel reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you for being strong, for not falling apart." I am falling apart. I'm just doing it quietly so the kids don't see. That's what being a parent is, falling apart quietly while pretending everything's okay. Michael came by the house 3 days later to talk. Rachel had gone back to San Francisco and the kids were at school. I'd been expecting this conversation, dreading it, but knowing it needed to happen. He looked terrible when I opened the door, like he hadn't slept in days. Part of me felt satisfied seeing him suffer. Part of me just felt sad. "Can I come in?" he asked. "Fine, but we're talking in the kitchen. I want to be able to leave if I need to." We sat across from each other at the table where we'd shared thousands of meals over 20 years. Now it felt like a negotiating table. "I'm sorry," Michael started. "I know that's not enough, but I need you to know I'm sorry." "Okay. I never meant to hurt you or the kids. This wasn't about not loving you." "Don't." I held up my hand. "Don't tell me this wasn't about me. You fell in love with someone else, Michael. That's entirely about me." "That's not what I meant. I mean, I do love you. I always have. But I'm also attracted to men. I've been attracted to men my whole life, and I buried it because I thought that's what I was supposed to do." "So you married me to hide who you really are?" "No. I married you because I loved you. I still love you. But I'm also in love with Chris, and those two things can't coexist. I can't be both the husband you deserve and the person I actually am." "So you chose him." "I chose to finally be honest about who I am. Chris is he's the first person I've been able to be completely honest with. You could have been honest with me. We could have figured this out together. Instead, you lied for months and had an affair." "I know, and I should have told you. But I was scared. Scared of losing you, losing the kids, losing everything we've built." "Well, you lost it anyway, and you hurt everyone in the process." Michael wiped his eyes. He was crying, which should have made me feel something. Sympathy, anger, satisfaction. But I just felt numb. "What happens now?" he asked. "I'm filing for divorce. I've already talked to a lawyer." "Sarah, what did you expect? That I just accept this? That we'd stay married while you have a boyfriend?" "I don't know what I expected. I don't want to lose you. You already have. The moment you walked into that motel room with Chris, you lost me. Can we at least try to be civil for the kids?" "I can be civil, but I'm not going to pretend we're friends. You betrayed me in the worst way possible." "I know, and I'll have to live with that. But Sarah, I need you to understand I didn't do this to hurt you. I did this because I finally couldn't lie to myself anymore." "Then maybe you should have figured that out before you got married and had kids." "You're right. I should have. But I can't go back and change the past. All I can do is try to move forward honestly. With Chris." Yes, with Chris. There it was. The confirmation I'd been expecting, but hadn't wanted to hear. "Are you moving in with him?" "Yes."
I'm staying with him temporarily until I figure out something more permanent. The kids are going to love that, finding out Dad left them to live with his boyfriend. I didn't leave them. I left a marriage that couldn't work anymore.
Michael stood up. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But I hope eventually you'll understand that this wasn't about not loving you. It was about needing to be true to myself. How noble of you. Put that on your dating profile. He flinched. I deserve that. You deserve a lot worse than that. But lucky for you, I'm not petty enough to make this any uglier than it has to be. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for Emma and Jake. They don't deserve to watch their parents destroy each other. After Michael left, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at nothing. Our marriage was really over. 20 years, gone, just like that. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Chris. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I know that doesn't make this better, but I wanted you to know. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, you knew he was married. You knew he had kids. You pursued him anyway. You don't get to apologize now and pretend you're a good person. Stay away from my family. I blocked his number before he could respond. The divorce took 8 months to finalize. Michael moved in with Chris officially, and the kids had to adjust to spending weekends at Dad's new place. Emma refused to visit for the first 3 months, too angry at Michael to even speak to him. Jake went reluctantly, coming home each time looking sad and confused. Dad and Chris are weird together, he told me after one visit. They hold hands and stuff. It's just weird. I know it's an adjustment, sweetie. Do you think Dad was always gay? I don't know. Maybe he was and didn't know how to admit it. Or maybe he's bisexual and attracted to both men and women. Then why did he have to leave us? If he likes both, couldn't he just stay with you? How do you explain to a 13-year-old that love is more complicated than that? That attraction isn't the same as commitment? That his father had made a choice, and that choice had broken our family? It doesn't work like that, Jake. You can't force yourself to stay in a relationship when you're in love with someone else. It wouldn't be fair to anyone. It's not fair now either. No, it's not. Emma's anger eventually softened into something like reluctant acceptance. She started visiting Michael again, though she made it clear she wasn't ready to meet Chris. I don't hate Dad for being bi or whatever. I hate him for cheating and lying. Like, he could have told you he was figuring stuff out. He didn't have to sneak around. You're right. He should have been honest from the beginning. Are you okay, Mom? Like, really okay? I thought about it. I'm getting there. Some days are better than others, but we're going to be fine, all of us. Do you think you'll date again? The question caught me off guard. I haven't thought about it. You should. You're not that old, and you deserve someone who won't cheat on you. Thanks, sweetie. I think. A year after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Chris at the grocery store. Literally ran into him. I was distracted looking at my phone and walked right into his shopping cart. I'm so sorry, I started, then froze when I saw who it was. Sarah. He looked as uncomfortable as I felt. Hi. Chris. We stood there awkwardly in the produce section. He looked different than I remembered. Thinner, tired. There were dark circles under his eyes. How are you been? He asked, which seemed like an insane question under the circumstances. Fine. You? Okay. Good. Busy. Michael stood up. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But I hope eventually you'll understand that this wasn't about not loving you. It was about needing to be true to myself.
How noble of you. Put that on your dating profile." He flinched. "I deserve that." "You deserve a lot worse than that. But lucky for you, I'm not petty enough to make this any uglier than it has to be." "Thank you." "Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for Emma and Jake. They don't deserve to watch their parents destroy each other." After Michael left, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at nothing. Our marriage was really over. 20 years, gone, just like that. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Chris. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I know that doesn't make this better, but I wanted you to know." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "You knew he was married. You knew he had kids. You pursued him anyway. You don't get to apologize now and pretend you're a good person. Stay away from my family." I blocked his number before he could respond. The divorce took 8 months to finalize. Michael moved in with Chris officially, and the kids had to adjust to spending weekends at Dad's new place. Emma refused to visit for the first 3 months, too angry at Michael to even speak to him. Jake went reluctantly, coming home each time looking sad and confused. "Dad and Chris are weird together," he told me after one visit. "They hold hands and stuff. It's just weird." "I know it's an adjustment, sweetie." "Do you think Dad was always gay?" "I don't know. Maybe he was and didn't know how to admit it. Or maybe he's bisexual and attracted to both men and women. Then why did he have to leave us? If he likes both, couldn't he just stay with you?" How do you explain to a 13-year-old that love is more complicated than that? That attraction isn't the same as commitment? That his father had made a choice, and that choice had broken our family? "It doesn't work like that, Jake. You can't force yourself to stay in a relationship when you're in love with someone else. It wouldn't be fair to anyone." "It's not fair now either." "No, it's not." Emma's anger eventually softened into something like reluctant acceptance. She started visiting Michael again, though she made it clear she wasn't ready to meet Chris. "I don't hate Dad for being bi or whatever. I hate him for cheating and lying. Like, he could have told you he was figuring stuff out. He didn't have to sneak around." "You're right. He should have been honest from the beginning." "Are you okay, Mom? Like, really okay?" I thought about it. "I'm getting there. Some days are better than others, but we're going to be fine, all of us." "Do you think you'll date again?" The question caught me off guard. I haven't thought about it. "You should. You're not that old, and you deserve someone who won't cheat on you." "Thanks, sweetie. I think." A year after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Chris at the grocery store. Literally ran into him. I was distracted looking at my phone and walked right into his shopping cart. "I'm so sorry," I started, then froze when I saw who it was. "Sarah." He looked as uncomfortable as I felt. "Hi." "Chris." We stood there awkwardly in the produce section. He looked different than I remembered. Thinner, tired. There were dark circles under his eyes. "How are you been?" he asked, which seemed like an insane question under the circumstances. "Fine." "You?" "Okay. Good. Busy." More awkward silence. "Is Michael with you?" I asked, looking around. "No, he's at home. Actually, we're not together anymore." That stopped me. "What?" "We broke up about 3 months ago. It didn't work out." "I'm sorry?" I didn't know what else to say. "Don't be. You were right about me. I did know he was married. I knew I was helping him wreck his family.
And karma's a bitch because he ended up doing the same thing to me. He cheated on you? Not exactly, but he realized that leaving his family was a mistake, that he'd given up too much. He resented me for it, and it poisoned everything between us. I should have felt satisfaction hearing this, some sort of vindication, but I just felt sad. Sad for all of us. Me, Michael, Chris, the kids. Everyone had lost something in this mess. Where is he now? I asked. Still in San Francisco. He got a new job up there, needed a fresh start. Does he see the kids? Not as much as he should. Emma won't talk to him. Jake visits sometimes. Yeah, that sounds about right. Chris shifted his weight uncomfortably. Look, I know I'm probably the last person you want to talk to, but I am sorry for what I did, for my part in wrecking your marriage. Michael wrecked our marriage. You just helped. That's fair. He started to push his cart away, then turned back. For what it's worth, he talked about you all the time, about how much he missed you, how guilty he felt. He loved you, Sarah. He was just too confused and scared to figure out what that meant until it was too late. Thanks for telling me, I guess. After Chris left, I stood in the produce section thinking about what he'd said. Michael had been confused and scared, and instead of being honest with me, he'd had an affair that destroyed everything. Part of me felt vindicated hearing that the relationship with Chris hadn't worked out, but mostly I just felt sad for the waste of it all. All that pain and hurt for a relationship that couldn't survive outside of its secret affair bubble. 2 years after the divorce, I went on my first real date. His name was David. He was a teacher at Jake's school, and he'd been asking me out for 6 months before I finally said yes. I'm a little rusty at this, I admitted over dinner. I've been married most of my adult life. That's okay. I'm pretty rusty myself. Been divorced 3 years, and this is my first date since then. What happened, if you don't mind me asking? She fell out of love with me, said she needed to find herself. Last I heard, she'd moved to Colorado to teach yoga. Ouch. Yeah. What about you, if you don't mind sharing? I took a breath. My ex-husband realized he was bisexual and left me with a man he worked with. David's eyebrows rose. Wow, that's rough. It was. Still is, sometimes. But I'm working through it. Do you still talk to him? Occasionally, about the kids mostly. He moved to San Francisco, so we don't cross paths much. How do the kids handle it? My daughter's still angry. My son tries to pretend everything's fine. Normal teenage stuff, just with extra complications. I get that. My kids went through similar stuff with the divorce. We talked for 2 hours, and it was easy, comfortable. At the end of the night, David walked me to my car. I had a really nice time, he said. Me too. Can I take you out again? I'd like that. He kissed me, just a quick, gentle kiss, and then I was in my car driving home, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. 3 years after discovering Michael's affair through a fitness app, I was living a completely different life. I'd gotten a promotion at work, bought a smaller house that was entirely mine, and started running myself, ironically, though I made sure to do it alone. Emma had gone off to college, still maintaining a strained relationship with Michael. Jake was 16 and had developed his own complicated feelings about his father's choices. They talked occasionally, but the easy closeness they'd once had was gone. David and I had been dating for a year. It was slower and more cautious than my relationship with Michael had been, but it was honest. He knew all my baggage, and I knew his. We were building something real based on truth instead of hiding.
Do you ever regret it? David asked one night as we watched TV on my couch. Blowing up your marriage? Maybe you could have found a way to work through it. No, I said without hesitation. Michael was in love with someone else. You can't work through that. And I deserved better than being someone's second choice. You definitely deserved better. Plus, if I'd stayed, I never would have met you. That's true, though I'm not sure that's a selling point for staying together. I laughed and kissed him. It's definitely a selling point. My phone buzzed with a text. Emma, Dad wants to have dinner with me and Jake next month. He's bringing his new boyfriend. Should I go? I sighed. Michael had a new boyfriend. Of course he did. That's up to you, sweetie. But if you do go, be civil, for Jake's sake. I'll think about it. Love you. Love you too. I set down my phone and tried not to think about Michael introducing his kids to a new partner. Tried not to wonder if this one would last longer than Chris had. Tried not to care. But part of me would always care. Not because I still loved Michael. That had died in a motel room 2 years ago. But because he'd been such a huge part of my life, and our ending had been so painful, that I couldn't help but wonder sometimes, what if? What if he'd been honest from the beginning? What if he figured out his sexuality before we got married? What if we'd been able to end things before the lying and cheating? But I knew those questions didn't lead anywhere productive. The past was the past. All I could do was move forward. You okay? David asked, noticing my expression. Yeah, just thinking. About Michael? A little. Is that okay? Of course. He was a huge part of your life. You don't just stop thinking about that. Thanks for understanding. That's what I'm here for. Well, that and my amazing cooking skills. You made spaghetti from a jar. Amazing cooking skills. I laughed, and for the first time in years, I felt genuinely happy. Not pretending to be happy, not going through the motions happy. Actually, truly happy. Michael's affair had destroyed my marriage and changed my life in ways I never could have imagined, but it had also forced me to rebuild myself, to figure out who I was without being someone's wife, to demand honesty and authenticity in my relationships. And in a strange way, I was grateful for that. Not grateful for the pain, not grateful for the lying and betrayal, but grateful for the opportunity to start over, to build something real, to find someone who chose me first instead of as a consolation prize. The fitness app that exposed Michael's secret was still on my phone. I used it to track my actual runs now. No motel stops, no hidden agendas, just me running through my neighborhood, taking care of my health, moving forward. Some mornings when I ran, I thought about Michael, about how his quest for fitness had been a cover story for infidelity, about how something as innocent as exercise had been corrupted into a tool of deception. But mostly I just ran, one foot in front of the other, moving forward, leaving the past behind. Because that's what survivors do. We keep moving, we keep running, not to motel rooms or secret affairs, but toward better futures and honest relationships and versions of ourselves that we can be proud of. And eventually, we find our way home.